Yeah, good morning and afternoon, depending on where you folks are. I see that Ron Burgundy in the chat section is here, which that's quite cool to see some stardom here on this particular training. Again, Jeff Skiba, I'm based in the Seattle area. I am one of the national account managers for FMH, so outside sales. At some point, I did have the Western region a number of years ago. I've been in this role 4 years, and I will answer questions. We do have some stopping points within this presentation for you to pop in there with that, so please feel free to ask away. And as a preference to this whole product portfolio, BestConnect is something we've had for 5 years. The most of you as distributors, end users, and then even some of my peers think of this as a product. And my intention today is to get this across as project business, which are very two different things. Products are our PowerFlex, the Max Reaches, that are individual pieces of equipment that you buy to augment a system you're selling. BestConnect can be that, but what I want to focus on ultimately is that it is a system in its entirety of how you're going to be able to sell the entire product as a whole system. So to be able to do that, though, I want to first talk about what the product portion of this is. The picture you see in front of you is a whole system utilizing various types of the BestConnect product that we have within the portfolio. Looking at it, and the benefits of the product, though, are very, very key, because as you're looking to sell, to create value for your end user, it's important to talk about certain aspects of the product that works for them. Everything is on casters within this system. It doesn't necessarily ship completely assembled. The bed sections ship on a pallet. The leg assemblies have to be assembled to that particular bed section, and then obviously whatever height that you need, you can have, but it's modular. Every section is essentially its own entity. You can plug it in. Either end has COM cables, plugs, so that as you connect this system in a run, you then end up daisy chaining them together to create your system and the componentry needed to keep the power and the communication lines going. It's a very quick deployable system in terms of installation. Most of these sections take 2 men, 30 minutes to build. And overall system, once it's built, is very simple to deploy, rearrange, and create the space you need for multiple industries. Hardware, very basic hardware to put these together. There's very simple connecting plates that connect the side frames to each individual section as well as the next one in line. And then very basic accessories to create the overall system. This all runs off 120 VAC. We typically like to put these in 30 amp power simply because it allows you to daisy chain more sections together. Most sections have 3 to 4 motors, each drawing 1 fluid load amp. So as you can see, with a 30 amp drop, you can connect up to 7, 9 sections per drop. Most jurisdictions don't require permitting. It's a weird rule. Some of the major cities, no question, the cities want some of that money from the permitting as well as more eyes on, so you may have to. But generically speaking, 90% of the projects that I've done in the last number of years have not required permitting, because you're not looking at 40 volt 3-phase electric. You're not fixing it to the floor, which requires, a lot of times, fire suppression. So we were able to get over the fact that you need fire suppression in most of these cases with limited in most areas. So it's a very flexible system. Lots of the vertical markets that I like to point out, because many of us, especially in these COVID times, we're struggling with customer bases. There's certain people out there that are thriving. E-commerce, no question, companies like Wayfair, Amazon, Chewy, all these companies that we as humans are ordering from to supply our typical days needs are using these systems. They're having to get new conveyor systems to augment their processes because of the uptick in their business. And subsequently, parcel then is a big industry. UPS, FedEx, their business is thriving, which then again relates to third-party logistics. So those are the 3 that I would say are major focuses if you had to. There's always other opportunities it becomes more about how you can think of the application. But overall, those three vertical markets I really think are where we're going to thrive at this time. And then still in that product side of this, as I break down what is in the product, I'm going to start left to right of these pictures. That is a typical straight section that you see in front of you. Each of them have illuminated off-on buttons, and these buttons are not something you depress. It's basically a touch. So it's green when it's on, it's red when it's off. We've moved to this because it creates a visual. If you look at a whole system with 30, 50, 100 sections, you can visually from afar tell if the system's on or tell if somebody accidentally bumped a certain section within the system to go back and turn that on. You can further make this system to where you have certain sections that turn on and others that don't, as that second picture shows the communication and power cables. The power cable plugs into either house power or the next section downstream, and then the comm cable is what's going to send that signal of yes, we're running, or we need to start and stop. So as you break that into sections, you can create your own little areas of running within a system. We have 1.9-inch rollers on 3-inch axle centers. Right now, 3-inch axle centers is what we're pushing for this because most packages need that in the industries that I mentioned. We're using 90-volt DC motors that they're converting that power from 120 VAC. All casters are 6x2 locking with brake. And as you can see on the left-hand side of the page, there's a few more little tidbits of 75 pounds per foot capacity, adjustable height. We can do transportation or accumulation. But overall, this is a basic, the guts of each one of the sections. Section types, we've really added to this in the last probably 18 months. Straight sections we can have those in various lengths. Curves are utilizing a conical roller to keep orientation of the package. We have lift gates, which are an up and downstream section that have wireless communication so that when you pull that lift gate up, it shuts down that system so it's not running. We've got skews and centralizers, which those are utilized based upon how you have product orientation going in and out of curves or having people adjusting using those boxes or actually using the conveyor. Coated roller inclines, again, the coated roller just adds a little bit more friction, so pulling that up. And then we have merges, and the merges are a really neat thing that we've developed to able to index 2 lanes into one. So again, these are all products going into a system. The straight sections are the backbone to the system. You're going to have different lengths available, 36, 60, 90, 120. Really important for me to indicate that you can cut down on site. So if you're restrained and you need 84 inches, so long as you are cutting down on an axle center that works with it, very easy to do. Standard widths, very basic, nominally at 24, 30, 36, and 48. And then if you employ accumulation into these units, you're going to have a zone approximately every 33 inches. Curves, again, very basic, conical rollers. You're going to use this to change direction. They're universal, they're either left hand or right hand. It just is about reversing the direction of the rollers. And as you can see there, this shows some of those lighted buttons that I mentioned earlier so that you can, again, visually, even through pictures, it shows the illumination that those sections are on. Centralizers, this is something developed because when people are sorting packages, and this is true for any conveyor type, they're tossing boxes on, packages on, they're haphazardly moving down that system. And as it needs to sort to the human, to then subsort, say, a pallet, a box, or a different area that the human has to handle, it's usually on one side or the other. So it's not necessarily ergonomically easy to gain access to. So when you put these centralizers in, or a herringbone powered conveyor before or after a curve, it's going to center that coming out of that curve to where it's more ergonomically sound to grab them. And so hence why we developed that. Coated roller inclines, again, its purpose is just to add friction. And when you have an elevation change within the system so that you don't have any slippage with that in the package, just like a roller coaster, when you're inclining, it has that chain that you can hear grab those cars so it pulls it up with it. Kind of the same sense within this. Lift gates, we've had them around for a couple of years now. We only make those in 36 and 48 just because of the nature of how heavy they are. They come in basically a 120 foot or 120 inch section. You have a downstream section 120 inches, an upstream section 120 inches. When you open those biparting gates up, you have a 5 foot gap. So that gives you enough space to most every pallet jack, gives you a good egress point within a long run. Skews, again, same concept as the centralizer, but the skew is going to push it one side or other. So if you have humans on one side of the conveyor looking to subsort those packages, we put a skew section in, and that'll pull it towards those people that are sorting so that they don't have to reach as far to grab. Merges, these are really, really slick. Lot to talk about here potentially. But as you can see from the picture, we're inbounding 2 different lanes of a power flex, which again is a product. We then have our merge that is taking both those lanes and then allowing them to merge further into a system on one. Now, these again have flow control, time control, other options based on your application. But you can see in the picture there's no photo eyes, no expensive or difficult controls or logic to take care of. It's basically all housed in that gray box on the bottom right of the picture of a human being able to control which of those 2 lanes is merging and how frequently. Accessories, very, very basic. And we can create new ones based upon what your system looks like. We have cord protection. Again, every so often you drop based upon how many motors are drawing off that system. And again, won't get into the semantics of that, but we also have side rail. We have side rail in varying heights and varying lengths, all dependent on how and where you want them in your system. Sometimes when you have back-to-back sections, you need some sort of bridge to make sure that there's this nice package transfer point. So we have a stainless steel transfer plate. But outside of that, if you can think about it, it's very minimal accessories for the system because it's on a modular platform. We don't have to run down E-stops. We're not putting pull cords. We're not doing anything very difficult in this to create the need for more accessories. This is all pretty well contained. So I'm going to stop there for some questions. And I see from Jason here, again, E-stops and pull cords. So yes, this does have a reality that certain jurisdictions may misconstrue this. This is a UL built product, so all the parts are UL compliant. The E-stops, because this is a low friction roller, it's the same concept as our BestFlex in terms of the pulleys, the motors. It's a low friction roller, so we're not needing to use the E-stops or pull cords within this system. I've deployed roughly 80 of these around the US in varying degrees of size and complexity and have yet to put any on. Yes, they do use brushless DC motors. It's the same motor. It's a Parvlux motor, which is, and again, we can get the manual out. One of the things that Aaron, I had meant to do that I want to do is to supplement this is we may want to include the manual as a downloadable thing because it does talk about more of the intangibles here. But the same motor we put on our PowerFlex is on the BestConnect. So it's using the same brushless DC motors. Jonathan, you're asking about CUL for Canada. Great question. So CUL for Canada changed the game. It tells me I immediately have to have an E-stop because that's what you need to do. Even on our Flex, by the way, you do need an E-stop. I have put this in Canada. We just finished the system in Ontario, and we did have to have E-stops because of the nature of the requirements. So we can augment the product. And that's something I can show at a later date as a follow-up. I can get you some pictures of what that looks like, but yes, we can. Give it a little bit more of a break while I take a drink of water and if there's any other questions. All right, so we'll move on. So again, I like to really emphasize the project side of this product. We all are, for the most part, I'm going to guess on this call, somehow commission tied to sales. And we like systems because it creates new value, creates a dynamic with an end user that is better than just doing a Me Too commoditized product. So when we look at the systems, many that you see in the pictures, here's kind of the start conception phase, right? And we do have CAD blocks that if you're looking to get, we can provide you so you can drop them in. But we start at this design phase and we say, okay, Mr. Customer, what are you trying to achieve within your system? And then we design it based on the modularity of the components and products that I went over. This system, just to give you more of a visual, all the purple items are centralizers, the yellow are lift gates, the red are gravity sections, and then all the black and blue are different size transportation units. The light blue are 36, the black color are 48. You see some crossovers in there that we've employed with Equipto, and really that is all the system is. We then drop, which you may see or may not, the little black dots or power drop locations, and that's again based upon the total DC or the total FLA of each drop. And when we do this, it gives us a way to overview and say, here's the system based upon this. And what's really cool is that the bill of material for any one of these jobs is maybe 12 to 15 light items. Very simplistic because, again, the modular approach. And then once we get to that, then this is what that system looks like. You've got very, very simplistic design to sort to either pallets. I see this a lot in e-commerce and inbound. I see this in customer return fulfillment centers when they're returning and then palletizing based on a SKU product code or some means of after once it's sorted on the left-hand side, that picture, those induct spurs as I call them, and they sort packages on, those then get sub-sorted onto pallets or into shelving or carts. Really good way to do this on an effective, inexpensive system. Really complicated stuff. We can even get this stuff up in the air. We can do elevated systems with this to have more line of sight, bigger sites. So again, we can get as complex as you'd like, but ultimately speaking, and I like this picture because it shows on those spurs, you see those comm cables, kind of hard to see there, but on each one of the ends of the spurs, you see the mast pole. You've got a power drop there so that they have something to plug in, say a flex. But they don't need that comm cable right there, so it's just zip tied out of the way. But who's to say that they couldn't add another 10-foot section of that and create a longer spur? Very, very easy to do. Again, just another picture of that same install. I put this in because we have chutes. Some of the things that we do to customize and make it more unique is that if we're going one elevation to another, one would say if we make an incline roller conveyor, we got to make a chute, which we do. So those chutes, although I did not discuss, it's more about project speaking that we'll design that based upon what that application is. Another really good photo because, again, sometimes people do in return centers a recirculating conveyor that just keeps going in loops or otherwise to get packages back into the mix if they're not pulled off. Again, very simple system, and it's very clean. If you look tight to these pictures, what do you see on the floor? You don't see much at all. These cables tend to get zip tied, pulled up in the system, and section to section, you're really only looking at, again, a yellow comm cable and a power cable. So it's a very clean system. You turn those casters in, you lock them, you plug them in, and really from an aesthetic point of view, very simplistic. Even more complex systems where you're going to have change of elevation. Again, multiple products employed into a system to do bigger sorts. These systems, a lot of them, we can power the conveyor from 0 to 200 feet per minute. And I can appreciate that within a given system, you may have multiple needs for feet per minute based upon what's going on at that system. So each section gives you the capability of setting that speed to whatever means you want. And most of the time, in fact, all the time, we do use a tachometer. We set those speeds, and then that way we can characterize that system to meet what they're trying to achieve. So say they have a high need to inbound lots of packages, they can do that, and then maybe they slow down the system feet per minute as they're sorting them, because humans can't react that quick at 200 feet per minute or 160. Maybe that's slowing down to 40 to 50 to 60. Here's a great example of a customer return center. That picture on the top is towards the end of the system, where they're going to then take product off, palletize it, and then either re-inventory it or distribute it back out. The bottom picture is more of that inbound side. And then here's where an integrator did a great job of employing Hytrol and BestConnect. So clearly they're a Hytrol dealer, and they have that omniball belt there that they're inbounding, right? They're taking stuff off of a truck on our BestConnect, sliding onto that omniball, and then down that system. Eventually they're going to get to the BestConnect. And this is a better solution, more modular for the customer. And I did some research on this one with my counterpart who sold it. And it was because the BestConnect gave them a lot less complexity on both installation, planning, permitting, you name it, and it gives them the modularity to change if their facility does. This building is ginormous. It's far larger than you see here, so it gives them the chance to expand into this by literally just buying more sections, attaching to the end, and maybe another power drop, which a power drop's anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 versus more expensive options. Here and again, this is a good example of a very basic system. It's a dumb system. There's not expensive controls like I had mentioned. So what you have here is you have basically a grid of very basic packaging benches, probably a Denko bench or something like that, palletized locations, and the conveyor running, and people working in each one of these cells to either label and then print and then apply, put on the conveyor, or take off and put it in palletize. But again, the benefit we give here as a team is you're the ones that are supplying the benches, the matting, all transfer tables, and some of the actual installation and maybe the engineering to a degree, but you can see how modular that product is. This is from our trade show, and I really like this slide because it kind of gives you this idea of what the system can do. Truly, it can marry up to our PowerFlux. It's a sister product of that. So as you create these systems, a lot of times the Flex has its place within a system because it's truck load, unload. It's inbounding, outbounding product. You're seeing on the right how it's putting it into a merge for one direction, and then on the left picture, it's showing the other direction of the merge. So again, you're able to augment this system to get multiple lanes to get in. And once again, I can appreciate that to some degree controls, logic, and other tweaks may be needed. So I don't want to keep you away from suggesting or talking to us about that, yet it truly is a pretty basic system where there's not going to be a photo eye that stops a package for a while, then turns it back on. Could we do it? Sure. But I'd like to learn more about that application before we did it. But again, another nice opportunity to see a project. I'll stop there again for questions. So again, I think the advantage against the Hytrol is that Hytrol brought that in, and I don't know enough about that product to speak overly intelligently about it. I can just tell you that this is our mousetrap as opposed to the Hytrol 24 volt. We could look at it. I'd have to dig into more of that product, but I would be willing to venture that the simplicity of what I've presented in the last 30 minutes is going to be the advantage. I think that the mobility is, I'm guessing Hytrol can make their equipment mobile too, but until I were to know how they're connecting section to section, how they're employing this product out there to mean power drops, and other more installation realities, it's hard for me to answer, but I would be betting that this would be a competing product to a degree with that. So overall, this is the end of the presentation. I think that the goal here is to start having everyone listening in think about this as a project. We're doing things to develop the product to showcase on the website, marketing collateral, and then obviously with our regional salespeople, that our intention is with this is to sit here and look at as we see the market as it is. People are looking for very simple solutions, inexpensive solutions, relatively speaking, right? Everything's expensive, but something that creates a value. And every time I've been able to garner this product, it's usually taking over the typical Hytro conveyor, the TGW, and it's not that I'm beating them in terms of solution. It just makes the headache less for a customer because it's easy to understand, easy to deploy, very templated, and doesn't take a lot of time and energy back and forth with design because they understand going into it, I have these sections to work with, and it's like giving my 3-year-old some puzzle pieces, right? They're going to just fumble around, put it together, and say, yep, I like this. Now, where things change a little bit is talking about design to fit it. Sometimes we have to push back a little bit on the customer to say, hey, that's a little too advanced for this. Are you looking for that advanced thing? Or are you looking for simplicity? The other part that I want to point out, because it comes up a lot with the people I deal with, that they what is the maintenance, right? So what's the cost of ownership? We all care about that. We all own stuff that we hate to fix because it's money we'd rather spend in other places. The cost of maintenance is very low. We use the same motors, fair enough. You might have 2 spare motors at $400 a piece. From a critical spares standpoint, the systems that I'm putting in are anywhere from $700,000 to $1 million, and the spares are anywhere from $5,000 to $11,000 to support that. And that's pretty high-end stuff because they're getting rollers. You take out that and you really look at critical spares, you're probably only looking at less than 1% of the cost of the system for spares. And from a maintenance perspective, you have the same control box on every section. So you have the same components section to section to section. Where it takes a little bit more in the know is the lift gates because, again, a wireless communication. But overall, the cost of ownership is very low with this equipment from a maintenance and parts perspective. So outside of that, I think I can leave it there, and any other questions come up. I mean, whether you want to contact Charlie, Mac, Rich, or Victor, Aaron, myself, I've got a lot of experience with this product line, but our goal is to get our channel partners and our teams out there in the field to look at this, look at FMH for system type of business within that BestConnect product line.